And this started because I'm always asking you these crazy questions off the top, and you just kind of answer every question every time, no matter what the curveball is I throw you. And I was baffled by it. I really was. So it was an interesting way to see my ideas come to life, you know?
Yeah, I know. It seems like you love to ask me questions about everything with bodybuilding, fitness, and it kind of makes sense to start turning that into a podcast instead of just conversations between me and you.
Yeah, you could form everything at an understanding where I was either happy with the question I had, reframed it, or I was like, that was the most ridiculous question I ever could ask. I think we'll start with my favorite classic question, which was always, if you didn't care about someone's health profile, if they're just like, I want to die, kill me off a cycle. What's the craziest cycle you can put together for someone? All the orals, all the hormones, any measures you can think that's just going to maximize them becoming a mutant.
Is their goal to make the best progress possible and build the craziest physique, or to die early? What's their goal?
They want to get as jacked as possible, as fast as possible, with zero regards for a single side effect.
That makes sense. Okay, so obviously just taking steroids and growth hormone, all of these things, that's not the only thing that plays into building as much muscle as possible. I think the best way that you can take somebody from wherever they're at to, let's say, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, being as jacked as they can humanly be, you first have to teach them how to train properly. And most people don't know how to actually train hard and train smart and do both. So I think that is the bread and butter for being able to build as much muscle as possible. Then throwing in the steroids on top of that to help with the performance and the recovery.
Let's say he's an experienced lifter. He knows how to train. He's been training for 5 years. He found out he's going to die in a decade. And he's like, fuck it. I'm going to be Mr. Olympia. I know how to train. I'm going to die already, so I don't care.
Yeah.
Let's run the cycle.
Well, I would say, side effects to an extent can be tolerable, especially if we're talking short term. So, I wouldn't be scared to push the dosages too quickly. I would say, starting out, obviously, you got to have testosterone, the base compound for the estrogen and DHT conversion. I would say, and it depends on, the size of this person too. How much do they weigh, and what are a couple stats?
185, 5'10". Relatively lean for a normal dude, not shredded by any means.
All right, and probably like mid-20s, let's say.
25.
All right, so he's not huge, 185. So he's not going to be able to tolerate, generally, depending on genetics, but generally he's not going to be able to tolerate as high of dosages as somebody who's 100 pounds heavier than him and way more muscle, way more androgen receptors.
So as someone progressively takes more steroids and gains more muscle, they're going to respond better to larger doses just because of the androgen receptors that are, that you gain during that, or what's causing that?
There's two ways to look at it. One is, yes, they can tolerate more steroids, but number two is they don't need as much in order to maintain their size.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
once they have it, they can hold on to it relatively easy.
Exactly, and you'll see a lot of the top bodybuilders, that compete in the Olympia, or just the top bodybuilders in the world. They aren't taking as much gear as guys who are trying to get their pro card. The reason why is not because less is always better. It's simply because they don't need as much in order to grow, or to simply just maintain the amount of tissue that they have. In order to put on new tissue that your body's never had before, you do need to push those dosages. For this guy who's 185 pounds who wants to get as big as possible in the next few years.
I'm talking Russian government experiment,
Right. I would say, I would have him run, around 2 grams of gear, maybe 3 grams of gear. More is not always going to be better, even in the short term. I think, if your body starts to get too inflamed, and even 2 grams can absolutely be way too much for this guy. He might only be able to tolerate, 500 milligrams without, seeing point of diminishing returns. But let's say he can, tolerate, steroids pretty well. I would say if you can get him up to, let's say 750 milligrams a test up to a gram a test, then let's say, he runs EQ to help control estrogen. Let's say he runs that, in the 500 to 800 milligram range. again, depending on his estrogen conversion. Then, I'd say if we're talking about, fuck health, I'd definitely throw Tren in, test EQ, Tren, throw in, an oral, like Anadrol.
Yeah.
So I'd say, if he could run, 200 to 500 milligrams of Tren, let's say Tren and Anthate, to keep the levels a little more stable, control side effects a little bit, because you're not going to see more gains from more side effects. So Tren works.
What
then
orals are we talking?
I would honestly say Anadrol is probably going to be his best bet. There's, something like Anavar is not going to be as strong as Anadrol. And the reason why most people are going to run Anavar over Anadrol is because it's healthier and more sustainable.
I love Anavar.
Or let's say like it's less unhealthy than Anadrol. So for this guy, fuck it. Let's run some Anadrol. The reason why
growth, insulin, what we looking with those?
Absolutely. I would say as high as he can tolerate with growth hormone. So, and as high as he can afford.
How high can that theoretically go with an unlimited budget? In no regard for his
There's
life
actually
or muscle injection points.
Funny you mentioned the Russian thing. There's this guy that I've seen on Instagram that looks fucking ridiculous. He's like probably 300-pound open
Is he one of those
bodybuilder.
like young dudes too?
He's not that young, but he's like,
They have a couple like 18-year-olds.
he's probably like
250.
30 maybe.
Okay.
He's younger, but not like, but he's like a open IFBB pro bodybuilder. He's the guy that you would see in the gym, like on Instagram, that's wearing the CPAP machine.
Oh yeah, looking like a zombie type creature. Yeah,
something like that. And he crazy vascularity.
red as hell.
Apparently that guy was running like, I don't know, over 100 IUs of growth hormone per day. What the fuck? Yeah. Like some ridiculous stuff. So
how do you treat those injection points when they're not I mean, you say you're just a turkey baster. Like, what are those injection points looking like?
Well, think about it. If let's say he has his growth hormone at, let's say a high concentration of maybe it's 36 IUs, he puts 1 milliliter in there. So that could be, like basically 3 or 4 milliliters of a water-based solution. So he could easily put, a water-based solution of growth hormone anywhere. I would put that intramuscular.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put that subcutaneous.
Especially if you're doing it daily.
Yeah. So the issue with running crazy high dosages of steroids is where you're going to put it.
I'm talking he's a government experiment where he's just getting tortured. He's strapped up every day, no regard for how he's
got like people, like scientists already like injecting him.
But it's almost like if you're getting it in your glute and there's irritation, you're going to have, training affected by that too.
Exactly.
So there is really only
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. Like you can't actually like just pin as much as humanly possible because it's going to affect your training.
Yeah.
So let's say,
let's say they made a way where it's like an IV intramuscular site point where he has this perfect, mythological advancement that we haven't found yet to take on all the gear you could think of.
Sure. I would say, test EQ, Tren, Anadrol, and then let's say, he's running 20 IUs of growth hormone. Let's say his food is incredibly high,
We'll build off that too. How can you prioritize his digestion and ability to eat food? So I'm talking what's going to help his hunger, what's going to make him not bloated so he's ready for the next meal. How much cardio is this motherfucker doing? Give me the whole program.
Well, it's kind of counterproductive. If he's running, all these steroids, especially Anadrol, those are absolutely going to fuck up his gut and his digestion. So that's another reason why taking as many steroids as possible and the harshest possible steroids, it's not actually going to build more muscle, especially, long term, because building muscle happens from training and diet as like the base foundation. If you can't eat enough food and if you can't train effectively, it doesn't matter how many steroids you're taking, you're not going to build as much muscle. So I think if he was maybe playing a little bit more on the healthy side, which is why everybody preaches maybe let's do things a little bit healthier. There's a reason why nobody's saying like let's take the most crazy cycle possible, because it's not going to build as much muscle as possible.
There's so many other areas you can optimize that are going to give you the outcome of more muscle growth other than just 10x in your cycle.
Exactly. So I think if he were to run like as much as possible without the side effects or the negative health effects, which would look more like, a little bit lower dosages of maybe like 1 to 2 grams per week of, more mild compounds rather than running Tren, maybe running, like some just test in EQ or test in Primo or, something like that. And maybe, no orals at all. Or if he does run it, maybe just some Anavar, low dose, low duration, at the end of a cycle to help push towards the end. That would be the way to structure it versus running the harshest steroids as possible, because that's not going to build more muscle, even though it feels more intense. It's not actually
what can you do for digestion and things to increase your hunger? Because how's this guy going to be eating 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day if his stomach is fucked up from taking a bunch of orals?
So first thing is you have to, not be making things worse. So let's say he takes out the Anadrol, he takes out, anything that's fucking up his gut in general. Now, how do we optimize it? Well, first is, how is his digestion? Is it fine, or is he already having issues? If he has issues, we got to fix that. And that's a whole rabbit hole of how to fix gut issues. In general, let's say somebody doesn't have gut issues, but they want to optimize their digestion in order to eat as much food as possible, in order to build as much muscle as possible. I think the best way to go about it is to eat foods that digest quickly, digest easily. So foods that are going to be a little bit lower in fat, but not fat-free. Whole foods.
Theoretically, would an IV bag provide nutrients that would allow muscle growth? Like, what could you do outside of just consuming the food? Could you technically have an IV bag, hooked up to you for hours a day or while you sleep to leak in some nutrients as well? Or is that a different type of nutrients than?
Yes and no. Like in theory, like you could have IV like protein, carbs, and fats, or I guess it would be like amino acids, glucose, and triglycerides put into like your vascular system. But the issue with that is now you're slowing down digestion because you're not using your digestion. Okay. So it becomes counterproductive because you're not going to rely on that forever. Yeah. So I think, the best way to do it would be to eat foods that digest well, eat as low as protein as possible while still being able to build muscle and recover. Because protein is very satiating. Really try to emphasize the carbs, simple carbs that digest well. So rice is, generally the easiest to digest for most people. There's sourdough. There's, all the different rice products.
Avoid dairy, I'm sure, isn't something you're trying to push.
I'd probably stay away from like inflammatory foods like dairy, gluten, soy, things like that.
Anything
and
processed.
Probably like specifically the like sugar alcohols and artificial sweeteners, that kind of stuff that does affect the gut microbiome in larger amounts, when you're consuming them in higher amounts, even though, we're drinking a Zevia here, but this is in moderation. And I've only had this one today versus, some people are drinking,
I drink 12 in a day at my peak one time.
And Zevia is not even in the worst. Like, sure, to an extent, Zevia will cause some issues.
Like an angry stepdad, just pound a 6-pack.
But if you're drinking like a 2 liter of, Diet Mountain Dew every day, that's probably going to affect your gut microbiome a lot more.
That's going to make you have bubble guts.
All the, the aspartame, sucralose, all the, even, in other, products with xylitol and erythritol and all the sugar alcohols that absolutely feed gut bacteria and can cause that.
And that's what they're doing to mess up your gut microbiome, right? The artificial sugars are feeding the bacteria in your gut in a negative way, or making them too fat, or kind of.
Yeah, they feed certain types of bacteria, the opportunistic bacteria, which is the bad bacteria basically, and that's what ends up causing a poor ratio of good bacteria to bad bacteria in your gut, in layman's terms. And so then that starts to have like a whole positive feedback loop of then you just have an entire poor gut microbiome where that causes other issues, where that decreases stomach acid, that causes an increase in bloating, that decreases motility, and then eventually you have even more fermenting of foods in the gut, and then you just continue to have more of an overgrowth of bad bacteria.
And it just causes bloating, just indigestion, just you're messed up.
All of it, yeah. And those are like more like the common symptoms that you'll see is like if you're always bloated, like maybe it's because you're eating foods that don't digest well, and or you have an overgrowth of bacteria that you're also feeding. And then what happens is those bacteria, they eat, the prebiotics and the sugar alcohols and the, all these different types of foods that we're consuming, and they produce gases, hydrogen gases, methane gases, and those gases are what cause the bloating and eventually gas.
Okay, I want to get into gut digestion, but let's just wrap up the crazy government, Russian experiment here. What can he do to really help with recovery? Is there any, compounds he can take, things you'd recommend if he's just, again, a mutant animal owned by the Russian government that needs to prioritize recovery to the fullest?
I think the best way for him to recover is going to be to sleep as much as humanly possible, and to literally only make bodybuilding his life.
Mm-hmm. Sleep like 15-hour days, like two 8-hour naps a day type deal.
Yeah, if he can sleep like 9 hours at night, take 2 to 3 naps during the day, and have an amazing training session.
Yeah.
And that is his entire life, and then he just makes money passively.
He's a prisoner, guys. I want to remind you, this is a prisoner.
Basically, yeah. He doesn't have any social life. He has the perfect sleep schedule. He only has full effort when he puts that effort towards bodybuilding. He doesn't have to go on errands. He doesn't have to do anything. He gets his steps in for insulin sensitivity to help with being able to eat more food, but that's basically how he has to prioritize recovery. And then obviously, PEDs play a role too.
Is it just PEDs in themselves, or is there specific PEDs that could help with recovery?
They all, I can't say all. Steroids and growth hormone are what really are going to help with recovery.
Theoretically, I don't know too much about stem cells, but if he had access to unlimited stem cells, would that be benefiting him? Or is that a whole nother form of recovery? That's like joints and shit, isn't it?
So stem cells basically are cells that haven't differentiated into a certain type of cell. So you can have a stem cell that can turn into a skin cell, or into a liver cell, or into whatever. So to turn into a muscle cell, that would be more kind of like hyperplasia, kind of like what growth hormone does. But I have that hasn't been done at all, and I'm not sure exactly why. I think because it probably is not sustainable for stem cell therapy.
To just be on deck for someone like that.
But ridiculous. Imagine, let's say if
theoretically,
if you could inject stem cells into a muscle, and that causes muscle hyperplasia, where you start to increase the amount of muscle fibers. Thank you. You start to increase the amount of muscle fibers that you have, which is what growth hormone does. Now you're able to not just grow the muscle fibers that you already have. Now you're increasing the amount of muscle fibers and growing those exponentially. So that's how growth hormone causes faster growth over time. But with stem cells, imagine.
Instant. Yeah, it'd be instant.
Imagine if that's, they don't do that right now, but I couldn't tell you exactly why it wouldn't work, but in theory, it's possible. But also maybe it would cause some weird kind of cosmetic weird issue. Why would you inject it only into your biceps? It wouldn't be
it would have to be a site injection type thing too. It wouldn't just be if you put it intramuscular, it goes throughout.
Right. Yeah. If you were to do stem cell therapy, it's going to be for something localized. Yeah. So you'd have to do it for every single muscle in your entire body for it to grow. So I think that's
site injection oil at that point. So maybe if your legs were lacking, or you had a specific body part, it would work.
Yeah, but then it's permanent.
Okay. So before I move on to my next question, which is going to have you kind of list the most common peptides you're seeing associated with weight loss and why they're different and how each of them stands on their own. If you could just wrap up real quick in 10-15 seconds the growth hormone, the total cycle, and everything that you'd want this monster cycle to be, for this Russian science experiment in one clip.
If this guy's trying to get as jacked as possible and doesn't care about his health whatsoever, I think he should obviously be training his ass off, eating as much clean food as possible, and doing his cardio, then taking as much testosterone as he can tolerate. Let's say it's probably 750 milligrams, maybe 1,000 milligrams. I think he should probably be taking EQ to control his estrogen with more muscle building properties, anabolism. So EQ as much as he can tolerate without having too low of estrogen. So that might be only 300, 500 milligrams for him. It might be up to a gram. Maybe he might be taking a gram of test, a gram of EQ, if he aromatizes a lot into estrogen. Then I would say he could probably benefit a lot from taking Tren. Let's say if he can do well only taking 100 milligrams a week, and higher than that, he starts to have, night terrors and night sweats and way too much anxiety. Taking more is going to be counterproductive. But if he can tolerate 200, 300, 500, 700 milligrams per week with no issues. Take more Tren. Then I think when it comes to digestion, I think, running an oral that's not going to affect digestion that much, would be something like Anavar, for example. Running that, at, let's say 50 milligrams a week, or a day, I should say 50 milligrams a day, maybe even up to 100 milligrams a day. Then at a certain point, if he's lean, if digestion is good, I think he would run Anadrol for, probably 4 to 8 weeks, at 50, 100, even up to 150 milligrams per day. Then maybe towards the end, after, taking Anadrol, maybe throw in Superdrol if he's still doing okay, with his liver, with his gut health, assuming his health is good. If his health is dog shit, he's not going to be building more muscle from taking more steroids. I think if he's able to tolerate all of those steroids, all of those dosages, then he will build more muscle than if he wasn't taking those. But if he's taking higher dosages and seeing more side effects, getting worse sleep, not able to eat as much, more stress, he's going to see better results and build more muscle taking less steroids. Then with growth hormone, I think if he can take, 18 IUs a day, 20 IUs a day, and control his insulin levels from taking too high growth hormone, he's probably going to build a lot of muscle. I think if he's, able to take enough insulin to keep his blood glucose levels in range, whether that's, 30 IUs pre-workout or however much he needs to be taking, then I think
there's so many factors to measure along the way. It's hard to just put out
But I'll throw in one thing that you didn't ask about that I think is the game changer. If we're not talking about price specifically, is Increlex.
Oh, what the hell is that?
Increlex is the pharmaceutical grade IGF-1.
Oh, wow.
So it's not the bullshit IGF-1 LR3 that you see on peptide websites or IGF-1 DES that you get for $40 or however much it is on your favorite peptide website. This is something that is extremely hard to find. And if you think pharmaceutical grade growth hormone is expensive, this is exponentially more expensive than pharma grade growth hormone.
Where's it found out? Who's making it?
I don't know what brands are making it, but it's made for adolescents that are underdeveloped, have an IGF-1 deficiency, and don't want to be underdeveloped as they grow up. So if they have like dwarfism or they're
It's to help midgets.
basically.
Yeah.
If they have an issue with converting growth hormone to IGF-1, then they could get prescribed Increlex. But if a bodybuilder in this example could get his hands on as much Increlex as possible.
What price point are we talking here? I mean, what's this stuff cost? And is this purely something you need a prescription for? You're not finding it anywhere else besides, very special sources?
Generally, the way that it would be found is, from overseas. Someone gets prescribed, you get it from them.
Can you get Increlex?
Possibly,
Yeah,
but
damn, that's the first time I've ever seen him make that face, guys. Usually he's got 10 prices to show me.
well, no, it's crazy hard to find. I would be able to ask the right people. Like generally, like if you're
If
trying
you
to
hunted
find,
for it, you'd find it. But
yeah,
you have
like
to hunt for it.
the way to do is like ask the biggest bodybuilder you know. They probably have a good source for it. And so it's like I know guys who've taken it. I would just ask them. I don't know the exact price, but I would think,
More than pharma grade fucking growth hormone.
Right. So Serostim generally like right now goes for like roughly, I mean, it's expensive as fuck right now. Like it'll be like roughly like $900 for a kit of 126 IUs. So that's like, 2 to 4 months worth of, for $900. So let's say that's like $500 a month for growth hormone. Increlex is probably going to be for that low dosage, probably like $2,000 a month.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
For a high dosage, maybe looking more at like the $5,000 to $10,000 a month.
Is it new, kind of in the past 10 years or so that growth has become more affordable, or was there always the two types of growth? Because I just know back in the day hearing stuff, especially on like Rich Piana documentaries, him talking about how expensive growth hormone was. So when did that happen?
The reason why is because generic growth hormone became a thing.
When was that?
In the 2000s. I think.
Was it not as common as it is recently? Because I know it's just become way more readily.
So back in, like the 90s, obviously before that, even like the early 2000s, there was only pharma gear. There was no like, UGL labs where like, people would just be like brewing their own stuff, and, like that didn't exist. Like if you wanted growth hormone, you were getting a pharma grade growth hormone. If you wanted any steroid, it'd be like, all right, what do you have on hand? And it would all be just something that somebody got prescribed. And
it was all prescriptions that made its way down, just like the illicit pharmacy market is now.
Yes,
that's wild. So
that's
there was
how it
no.
was.
That's wild.
Now Chinese manufacturers,
Indian people, I'm always seeing on my gear bottle.
There's India, there's Turkey, there's a lot of Chinese. China is like the main manufacturer of all the the steroids, the peptides, everything, growth hormone. So because they can make it for so cheap, they can sell it for so cheap, and so you can get a kit of growth hormone. Like I remember a while, like years ago, probably like 2021, 2022, like I was finding kits of growth hormone for like $60 a kit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, now it's like $200 to $300 a kit.
There was a time in the market though where that's $60. It's crazy.
Yeah, and like that. I mean, I found that I was like, holy shit, this is ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
But like Serostim, which is the pharma growth hormone, like I've seen it for as low as like $200 to $300 per kit. I used to buy. I can't say that I used to buy it. I used to
Knew a dude.
I used to know a guy that used to buy it for like $600 to $700 a kit.
Wow.
And now it's like closer to like $900. So it's definitely pretty expensive. And that's a kit is 126 IUs. If you take like basically the HRT dosage, that would be 2 months worth. If you're taking like a moderate dosage to like build muscle, that'd be 4 IUs. That would be 1 month's worth.
Okay.
For $900.
Okay.
And if you're taking, like a bodybuilding dosage, that would be like 2 weeks worth. So
like
it's
18, like $1,000 every 2 weeks almost then. 1,800. Yeah. 1,800 every 2 weeks you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh wow. $4,000 a month on fucking growth is crazy. My favorite Rich Piana story is when he talks about how he ate Chef Boyardee ravioli every day so he could afford growth hormone.
Yeah, I remember.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it can get expensive, especially for the pharma stuff. And the pharma, I will say for a fact, like there is a difference.
Yeah.
I think generics work if you're trying to build muscle, if you're trying to lose body fat. Generics work, especially if they're real. If you have a good source of generic growth hormone, it works. But there's something about, same with any medication, with people talk about like Adderall and all these things like Wellbutrin, like there's a difference between the generic and the name brand. Like there is a difference between
The corner was cut somewhere. It had to be. That's why it's the generic.
And what I think it is like the pharma grade, medications in general, whether it's growth hormone, whether it's psychiatric medications, there's some sort of additives or something
They're
that
just not telling you about in the original formula that gets passed on. I could see
Right.
that too. Like they just forget to put one key ingredient that does something.
And so like, with what I think with like Serostim is there's some sort of, whether it's like diuretic or something that causes you to not hold as much water retention.
Oh, okay. So the farmer grade is going to have less water retention. I wonder if what caused the popularity increase was whatever the formula was got out, because every 20 years they have to release the formula of whatever drugs they're making. So I'm sure that's what caused the spike in that.
Yeah, I mean, like they can have chemists synthesize any compound, and so like you can synthesize, growth hormone because you know what the growth hormone like what the growth hormone molecule looks like, and chemists can synthesize that. But it's having like real growth hormone is not the same as having like Serostim, which
is real growth hormone extracted from a non is like a natural source, or what do you mean when you're referring to that? Did they just kill babies and suck it out of them?
No, like they take like with any compound that you can synthesize, you take like whatever base, whether that's cyclobenzohexane or whatever, and then you add acetone, and then you add this compound, and then eventually it causes these chemical reactions to where eventually like that kicks off this atom, and then it adds this chain of atoms, and then eventually you're able to synthesize. This is what I learned in organic chemistry when I was in college, is like how to synthesize, like how do you synthesize this molecule from this molecule? Well, there's 10 steps of adding this, then this, then this, then this, and then eventually you get this.
So there's so many steps in between where something could be different that just causes a different end product.
Yeah, that's how you synthesize organic molecules, like growth hormone, for example, or anything really is, just in a lab. It's how they make it.
So let's wrap it up with his insulin usage. How much insulin can someone really tolerate before they fucking die?
Depends on how much they're eating.
It's the eating thing. Okay, so if he's eating more, he can take more insulin theoretically?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
You have to eat enough carbs specifically.
Support the usage.
Right, because if you don't eat enough carbs and you take too much insulin, that answers the question of like, what is the most dangerous cycle, or what's gonna kill somebody, like insulin. Like if you take too much insulin and you don't have enough carbs, like or glucose in your bloodstream, you're going to go hypoglycemic or hypo and die. So yeah, I would say you don't want to just take more and more insulin, because that's not going to build more and more muscle. But if you're eating a ton of carbs, let's say you're eating 1,000 grams of carbs per day,
4,000 calories right there, folks.
You could.
I mean, sugary drinks would work as well too, right?
Yeah.
So you could be drinking your shit too.
Yeah.
Gatorade on deck.
People have that. Yeah. Especially if you're taking, insulin pre-workout, like you want to have simple sugars to get into your bloodstream. But yeah, if you're, taking insulin, any amount, you can't really say like, 10 IUs or, 20 IUs or 30 IUs is, like the most like optimal. It's like, it really just depends on how much you can tolerate based on how much you're eating in order to still keep a good level of blood glucose. So I'd say if you can slowly increase your insulin, then yeah, in theory, you might be able to like get better pumps, improve recovery. But it's not like the thing that's going to build more muscle.
And something you said to me the other day about insulin I thought was interesting is how you don't have an issue with it when you come off it. You're no longer affected by it if you don't need it. That's kind of, unique as opposed to testosterone, or if you take that for 10 years, get off it, you're going to be fucked.
Yeah. So insulin and growth hormones somewhat, but like insulin, your pancreas is not going to stop producing insulin if you take insulin. Now, you can prevent your pancreas from having to produce too much insulin, but you're not going to have the negative feedback loop that you would have on, let's say, taking testosterone, where you take testosterone, your brain is going to recognize that you have extra testosterone and estrogen in your body, so it's going to stop producing luteinizing hormone.
Regulate itself a little bit.
Exactly. Better. Versus your pancreas, it doesn't want to, shut down.
Afterwards, your pancreas may create an extra amount of insulin, and you still have to monitor that, like you would if you were taking it.
There would be no difference if, let's say, you like took insulin and then you didn't take insulin.
Yeah.
The only thing that would happen is like when you take insulin, you just got to make sure that your blood glucose stays at a good level, and then when you stop taking it, your pancreas is going to keep working as normal.
Was insulin originally understood to be treatment for diabetes, or is it for building muscle? How'd they kind of make that correlation?
Definitely for diabetes, for type 1 diabetes specifically. So type 1 diabetes is the autoimmune condition where your pancreas simply does not either have beta cells, which are the types of cells in the pancreas that produce insulin, or it simply just doesn't have enough. So it does not produce insulin, or doesn't produce enough insulin. And so what happens if you eat carbs or food in general, and your pancreas doesn't have the types of tissue to produce insulin? Well, then your blood glucose just gets higher and higher and higher, and eventually you become hyperglycemic, and then you can die from that as well. So for type 1 diabetes, they created insulin. And
is there different types of insulin, just like there's different types of tests?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's short acting, medium, long acting. For like type 1 diabetes, it's differently used than type 2 diabetes. But for bodybuilding, generally, fast acting insulin is going to be more beneficial for building muscle, or for training. Some bodybuilders will use a long acting insulin to help with not having as much insulin produced from the pancreas. So taking a little bit of a burden off the pancreas. But there becomes the issue of now you're starting to run into a decreased sensitivity to insulin. If you constantly have insulin in your bloodstream from taking a long-acting insulin,
your tolerance gets built quick.
Yeah, and so insulin resistance is not a very good thing for bodybuilding. You want to be insulin sensitive. So that's why
I've only heard of insulin resistance in fat people before.
It's the opposite of insulin sensitivity, which you generally only hear with bodybuilding. So what it really is simply just insulin sensitivity means you're sensitive to insulin, obviously, and resistant to insulin is insulin resistance. What does that actually mean? Is if you are lower in body fat, you have, a controlled amount of calorie intake, and you are exercising regularly, you don't have as much insulin having to be produced by the pancreas to control your blood glucose. And so you're going to be able to build muscle faster. You're going to put on body fat slower, and you're simply going to have less blood glucose in your bloodstream in general, which if you have too high of blood glucose in your bloodstream, now you start producing too much insulin. Then your cells, all over your body, especially your muscle cells, start to get too resistant to that signal from insulin that's being produced in your from your pancreas, put into your bloodstream. And so then the cells in your muscles say, hey, we're already full. We have enough glycogen. We don't want to keep, taking in more glucose from insulin, bringing in the glucose. So that's them being resistant to insulin. That's insulin resistance.
Okay, so here's my next topic. I'm sure you've heard about and are familiar with the enhanced games. One of the compounds they allowed on it was Tren, and everyone was thinking that was hilarious. If you got called up tomorrow and they're like, hey, Adam Katz, I want to make you the head director of all things hormones involving the enhanced games, what would you allow? What would you change? And what would your kind of rollout look like?
So it's funny. They kept hitting me up.
Really?
Yeah. They kept emailing me, asking me if I would promote them and if I wanted an affiliate code to work with them.
What the hell?
I didn't want to. I thought it was kind of cheesy.
Yeah. They're owned by some German billionaire though. He's legit. He's legit.
Yeah. I didn't want to. They wanted me to I don't like the deal that they proposed. Okay. It was
didn't make sense.
I don't remember what it was, but I was like, I don't really like this deal. It was you get this amount of money for how many referrals you get. I don't know. So
no incentive.
Yeah, it wasn't a good enough incentive to promote something that I thought was a little cheesy. So I think the better way to have promoted the enhanced game was to not have regulations.
Yeah.
It should be to see the capability of human performance should not be to limit it. And I think with the real Olympic Games, they are taking steroids. They are taking performance enhancing drugs, no doubt about it. They're just not talking about it.
It's also because the results were so similar where it was weird how it's not like there was 100x, increase in output or some crazy.
That's the reason record. Is because the athletes who win the Olympic medals at the Olympics
are on steroids already.
They're already, enhanced.
That's crazy.
But they didn't want to do the enhanced games because then they'd have to come out and say that they're enhanced.
Yeah, they'd have that title stripped away.
And so genetics with PEDs will always be just PEDs.
What are some compounds you think they could add to the list? Because the way I understand it is everything that was available, they also produce and have for sale through whatever it is their little businesses. And I think that's an interesting approach too. They're not just saying, hey, go find some guy and get gear. They're saying you have to use our products and only our products.
Right. I think it's stupid. But I think what they did was also they said it can only be things that have been prescribed for human usage. Even if they're not prescribed anymore.
Not for animal consumption is allowed.
So things like equipoise, EQ. That was never prescribed for humans, so they couldn't take that. I think there was another issue where they said you can only have up to whatever they said. I think it was 2,000 nanograms per deciliter or whatever for testosterone, which I think is very stupid. I think if you're trying to see, the whole idea of the enhanced games was to see what the potential of the human body is through enhancement.
It was the first one too. I'm sure there's a lot of room for improvement. I think,
of course,
it would be crazy if they're just yo, here's a closet of every compound you could ever imagine. Go wild with all
I
the
think
testing.
It should simply just be how bodybuilding is.
Show up how you show up.
Yeah, it's just
bring your own.
Yeah,
they should. I mean, honestly, yeah.
I understand we should be monitoring their health and stuff, but it's just
that's because they're trying to build a whole business around it too. Peter Thiel's big on investing in the back of it, where they just want to be able to sell you.
They're trying to sell the TRT.
This is gonna be something that softens the blow when they're looking for steroid regulation.
But they were taking some harsh steroids. They were taking Anadrol, Halo. They were taking some crazy shit.
Halo. What would you add to their compounds and take away? Because something like Halo doesn't seem to be the safest thing to just be thrown around.
Well, it depends on the athlete. I think for strongman, it absolutely makes sense. I think I would have, said to get rid of the limitations and regulations of, dosages and compounds. I think it would have made sense to allow competitors to take, they were taking testosterone, they were taking growth hormone, they were taking Anavar. I think they were probably taking, peptides like BPC, I'm sure. I think, and it depends on the sport too. EQ would be beneficial depending on the athlete for endurance. I don't remember if Tren was prescribed or allowed. If it wasn't, then I would
it
say
was, because I seen a thing.
it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I think Tren should absolutely have been allowed.
How are these helping with increased performance outside of just the typical, aesthetic features that people are looking for? Like, what's Tren going to do to you where you can swim better? What I'm asking.
It affects the nervous system.
Okay.
So if you think about this, when you wake up first thing in the morning, how tight of a fist can you make? Versus when you're in the gym.
Yeah.
Your nervous system
Just puts you in that mode.
Yeah, so like when you're in the gym, your nervous system is a lot more in a awake or in a sympathetic state, which means like the fight or flight type of state. Like you have more dopamine. So like if your nervous system is more turned on, you're gonna be stronger. Versus when you're asleep, your nervous system is a lot more turned off. You're in that parasympathetic rest and digest state. So same thing with what Tren, Anavar, like all these steroids do is they increase your neural drive, the speed of signals from neuron to neuron, and that increases strength, it increases speed, it increases lots of things. So it's not just the physique cosmetic side of things that it helps with, but it helps with strength in the gym because of that nervous system component of turning you from, let's say, you go into the gym when you're tired versus you go into the gym when you're, angry.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a much better workout when you're angry.
Very good workout.
Right. So that's the idea, is it ramps up that nervous system element. Then, there's a lot of other things that it does.
Since we're speaking enhanced games, they should just let him take meth too. I mean, in all honesty, if you're going to give a dude a gram of meth before he swims, he's going to swim fast as fuck.
I don't disagree.
Like if we're talking enhanced, I want the trash can thrown at these motherfuckers.
Yeah, I mean, I think short term it could be very beneficial.
Yeah, like for the day of the performance, or like
Right.
maybe like occasionally on training, so they know what to expect when they take that that step. That'd be incredible. Imagine a whole Olympics where everyone's just methed out of their mind and juiced to the gills. That would be the best thing.
Thing
to
is
watch.
like meth can be prescribed, so I don't know why it wasn't used.
Yeah, huh?
Like
Maybe that's their loophole.
Like that one that became popular from clavicular disoxin.
Yeah.
I think is what it is. It's just
Meth.
prescription meth. Like it's prescribed. So, I mean, I think that'd be pretty beneficial for performance.
Give them some meth, and then to wrap it up, what were some things you'd take away from what they're currently allowing people to do or saying they should do? Are there any compounds you see on there, things you've heard that don't line up with what would be the most optimized result?
Yeah, I think Winstrol probably isn't the best choice to use for performance. It is not going to be the best on your joints, and there's much better options for performance enhancement. Anavar, for example, is way better for performance enhancement. Even Anadrol, way better than Winstrol. So I think just because Winstrol is a steroid and it's been used in competitions because it is a steroid and it works,
it's tested, in a way.
there's better options.
Yeah.
There's better options for increasing performance. Winstrol has its place, like in bodybuilding specifically. It's great for decreasing aldosterone, increasing the androgen to estrogen ratio. It's great for that. But for performance, I would not recommend it for the enhanced games.
Okay, so we'll wrap it up with the enhanced games there, and we'll jump back to peptides. I remember we spoke about how GLP-1 specifically, your dad started taking a certain one that was like guaranteed to have no hunger almost, and then there's multiple other forms of peptides that help with that. Can you kind of let us know what the top 4 or 5 peptides are in that category and why they're different and why someone's going to want one over the other?
So there's the 3 main basic ones that basically everybody knows: semaglutide, tirzepatide, and retatrutide, or Ozempic, Mounjaro, and retatrutide that doesn't have a brand name yet. There's so many more drugs in this class that I really do think and predict that eventually will become prescribed for obesity, for weight loss, one of which is called Cagrilintide. And Cagrilintide is not a GLP-1 receptor agonist, but it works very similarly. It's an amylin receptor agonist, which is also a hormone that's produced by the pancreas, but it drastically suppresses appetite. And I know from experience this is almost too strong. It's so potent, it will crush your appetite, depending on the person, like could be for days.
Like zero eating for days or just minimal eating?
Difficulty eating.
Yeah.
I took it when I was in contest prep. like 2 or 3 times. And I remember the first time, like, it worked great. The second time I took a tiny bit more, like I could barely finish any of my meals for like 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
And
Good for a fat bitch though.
absolutely. And my dad, who has the issue with food where it's a food addiction, and like it's not because he's hungry, it's not just because he doesn't know how to like lose weight. It's because he wants the ice cream, he wants the cookies, he wants the Chick-fil-A, McDonald's.
It's more
like,
to him than just the moment he eats it.
he like wants the dopamine from it, and so. Yes, you could attack it from the dopamine side of things with, a psychiatric medication, sure. But what did I have in my tool belt that I could help with him ASAP that he would actually be okay with? Because he's old. He's not going to see a psychiatrist. He thinks,
Thinks against that way.
he's
Real
like,
man.
I don't need to see a shrink.
Yeah.
So,
Fucking gypsies.
but, if I can give him a peptide to use to help with weight loss, he'd be like, I'll try it.
Yeah.
So I put him on Cagrilintide and Tirzepatide.
He was taking 2 of them.
Yes.
Okay.
I had him originally. So at first he was taking semaglutide. It worked a little bit, but he had to keep increasing the dosage because it wasn't strong enough till where eventually he started having a lot of digestive issues. Like
He was trying to eat past it, I'm sure, too, a little
that,
bit. Yeah.
completely correct. And just the semaglutide itself, slowing down digestion, decreasing stomach acid, it definitely fucks up the gut and the stomach. And he was taking such a high dosage of it that I was like, okay, let's try going to retatrutide instead. So we switched from a high dosage of semaglutide to whatever dosage of retatrutide. It worked, but also was not, like it had less of the side effects of semaglutide, but it wasn't really controlling his appetite very much. So then, because we worked that dosage up a little bit over time, and dopamine is going to override that hunger. He's not going to just be able to just say like, all right, I'm full. Like he's going to eat what he wants to eat, especially
it's
like
a drug to him at this point.
Exactly. He's going to eat even if he's not hungry, just for enjoyment. Then we switched to Tirzepatide, and it worked way better. And he started losing weight. And
What are the ways that it's different? Like, why is it causing the hunger suppression to feel different to him? What's that look like?
so semaglutide doesn't have the GIP receptor agonism, which has more of the appetite suppression. Tirzepatide has that GIP receptor agonism. Retatrutide also has it, and that's why people think, retatrutide is going to be way stronger. But the actual receptor agonism of GLP-1 and GIP is not as strong as Tirzepatide because it's kind of watered down from the glucagon as well. So retatrutide is great for fat loss, but for appetite suppression, Tirzepatide is a little bit better.
Okay.
So I put him on Tirzepatide, it started working for a while, and then eventually wasn't really working as well. So then I was like, okay, I know what to throw in here. We threw in Cagrilintide, and he started fucking losing weight. And he went from, his heavy was just over 250 at 5'7".
Yeah.
Over 250 at 5'7".
Big Bubba.
And
This is a Jewish man too, guys. So you can picture the build. He's eating bagels. He's very well fed.
Yeah, he likes to eat. And he got down to, he's 198.
Oh wow, so 60 pounds.
Yeah.
What was the timeline of that?
50. I think like a year.
Yeah, you said 250, 198, so it's like 52 pounds, 50 pounds. In a
Yeah.
year, that's crazy, especially for someone when's the last time he was 198? When you were born, even?
Before I was born.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He's never. No, the crazy thing was when he got down to 210. I was also 210 at that time, and we one day woke up and he was 209.8 and I was 210.2, and I was like, this is the first day in my entire life that you've weighed less than me.
What was his confidence like that came back?
He was so happy about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
Excited
that
so much.
changed his life entirely.
Because I've been alive for 25 years. In 25 years, he's never weighed less than me. Wow. And now he does, and he still does now. So
has he managed to keep the weight loss off? Is he still using any of these things?
Still using the Tirzepatide and Cagrilintide. I think he's just been maintaining for a while. I think he became a little bit complacent or more satisfied. But
he lost 50 plus pounds too.
Right.
He was
but I told him because he also lost a lot of muscle in that process too, because he was not weight training whatsoever.
Is he open to hormone use at all or no?
He uses TRT.
Yeah. Okay.
Just TRT though, and low dosage TRT. Yeah. He lost a lot of muscle in that 50 something pounds. So I've said this, his doctor said this, he needs to start weight training. So that's why he's like, well, okay, I guess I should stop losing weight. So now he's kind of just maintaining his weight.
He's eating like he's working out, but he's not working out.
Yeah, I think he's like minimally like, doing stuff, but muscle is the healthiest organ, like for longevity, for everything. Like, yeah, you want to have a healthy heart, healthy kidneys, healthy liver, but in his older age, he's in his 60s now, he's 65, in order to help with insulin resistance, to help with, bone strength so he doesn't injure himself, to help with, all cause mortality, all metabolic syndrome in general. Muscle tissue is incredibly important for especially just the reason of glucose uptake and just nutrient uptake into muscles. Think about it this way. If you hear, like you want to eat less food in order to, decrease insulin resistance, yeah, that makes sense because you don't want to keep adding more blood glucose into a bloodstream where there's already too much blood glucose. That's how people get type 2 diabetes. But the other way to decrease blood glucose is to give it somewhere to go, which is into the muscle by exercising through weight training, not from cardio, but from weight training. So that is what's going to drastically improve anybody's health and longevity, is building more muscle. So that's what I'm trying to help him with, is building more muscle now that he lost a bunch of weight, which is great. That's
next part of the journey, though, is to get jacked.
As jacked as you can get, on 100 milligrams test per week. So low dose.
Okay, another thing I've become to notice is all the peptides have to be injected. Why can't you take them in a pill? Or most of them? Most of them you are, only injectable. What's making the ones that are injectable only available in that form, and what's separating the ones that can be taken as a pill?
Peptides are chains of amino acids that are easily broken down by stomach acid, because stomach acid breaks down.
Would it think it's like food? Is that the way it would be digested?
Basically, because in a way it is. Like, think about chicken. You eat chicken or a protein shake, whatever. Like, these are proteins, which are chains of amino acids, just longer chains of amino acids than peptides. And stomach acid breaks that down into amino acids so that you can absorb them through the small intestine into the bloodstream. So peptides, most of them, if you, took, melanotan 2, or if you took growth hormone, for example, as a pill, your stomach acid is just going to break it up, and
zero absorption at that point.
Exactly. So that's why you have to inject most peptides. However, something like BPC 157, we already produce BPC 157 in our stomach.
It can register it as something different than thinking.
No, because it's already so resilient.
Yeah.
Because think about it. What BPC stands for is body protective compound 157. Our stomach already produces it to heal the stomach lining from stomach acid. Oh. So it's already so resilient to stomach acid that when we take it orally, it can bypass through the stomach acid.
It gets ingested in the small intestine, or the large intestine is where it ends up being absorbed, or what's.
And what it does is it increases healing, improves the stomach lining, because it's literally what we do. We can just take it as a pill. And so that's one way that we can take a peptide orally is BPC 157. There's also other ways to take peptides, such as intranasally. You can take it like snorting it, basically, not as a powder, but as a spray. There's many peptides that you can do that with. There's Semax and Selank, which are the cognitive enhancer peptides. There's melanotan 2 you can take intranasally. There's a whole bunch. Then there's topical peptides. BPC 157 you can take topically, like as a lotion. You can rub it on your elbows if you have an elbow pain.
Lotion too, huh?
Yeah.
And it's like if you have elbow pain, you can put it on your elbow.
Because it gets absorbed transdermally, so it goes through the skin and gets absorbed that way. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of them. There's also I've seen these like tongue things like that you put on your tongue. It's like almost like a fruit roll-up type of thing. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, you put those on your tongue. I've seen it for
like disappears on your tongue type deal.
Kind of, yeah,
Dissolves.
Yeah, it does, yeah. I've seen it for NAD. I've seen it for some other peptides. I can't remember, but yeah, it's not oral, but it gets absorbed through the salivary glands. So it's technically oral, but not.
In your mouth it gets absorbed, but you're not supposed to be swallowing it and like consuming it like a food. Okay.
So yeah, there's lots of ways to take peptides, and even like Wegovy, that is semaglutide that you can take orally. So it's in a pill form where it's not as bioavailable as injectable semaglutide, but that way you can take a GLP-1 without having to inject it. So.
Okay, with all these advancements we're seeing literally in the last 5 years between peptides, growth hormone being more readily available, what are some things people were doing 20 years ago that we look at now and we think, what the fuck were we thinking?
Frontal lobotomies. That was 20 years ago. What were we thinking? SARMs.
Okay.
That's a big
one.
Yeah,
those have really disappeared. I haven't heard much about those in a while.
There's still some that are pretty popular, and like they're case dependent, but they were so much more popular, I would say, like 10 years ago, I would say.
Remember that one kid who like lost his eyes and he was like Ryan Casey, I think, or something? Yeah.
Well, so a side effect of many SARMs and just oral compounds in general is yellow vision. And that happened to him, and he was already popular on YouTube, and so that's why that became.
I met his dad at an airport one time. It was kind of funny. I was like, "Oh my god, you're Ryan Casey's dad." He was super. It was like,
how were his eyes?
It was like 5 years after he was even relevant too. So it was funny. But his dad was a personal trainer, like a high end one too. I remember he'd always show his dad's cool gym. That was neat.
He was jacked.
Yeah.
So yeah, SARMs were really popular back in like 2015, 16.
I remember going into like a store one time thinking I was going to buy them, and I was just too nervous. I left.
I used to work at One Step Nutrition, and we used to sell them there. Like when it was
Did they
legal.
work?
Yeah, they work. Yeah. But like SARMs are not the best way to go about it. So like it's still a myth. People still think SARMs are, the answer. If you don't want to take steroids, you don't want to inject, you should take SARMs, right? No. You don't want to just half-ass bodybuilding or building muscle. It's kind of like getting a hand job over the pants. Like, why not just do the real thing, right? So if you're 16, you don't have a SARM deficiency. You just haven't been training for long enough. That's why you're not jacked. Or you're not consistent with your diet, with your training. You don't know how to train hard. You might think you do, but I thought I did too when I was 16, and now I'm 25, and I didn't know shit back then. So there's a reason why, if you're 16, 18, 20, 25, 30, whatever age, you don't want to just take SARMs to build muscle because you're scared to inject. You don't want to take Anavar because you're scared to inject. Because what these compounds will do, what these androgens will do, is shut down your natural testosterone production, and these compounds don't convert into estrogen or DHT. So now you're getting less of the benefits that you would normally get from taking testosterone, where now you're just getting a little bit more muscle growth with a lot more detriment. So it's short term, and I see it so many times where guys say, yeah, I took SARMs for this period of time. I took, for this long ago, and now my testosterone is at 200 nanograms per deciliter, and I shut myself down, and now I got to take TRT. Why take SARMs to shut yourself down, to force yourself to have to be on TRT, when you could just start with TRT in the first place, or start with a test cycle in the first place, assuming that it even makes sense for you. But also another option is maybe try to invest in hiring a coach to optimize everything else you're doing that actually builds muscle. And that's going to make you way more progress long-term, to where you don't have to inject yourself with a needle ever, especially for the rest of your life.
I think a lot of the fears that people have around steroids that give it, these crazy misconceptions, or just the crazy stories you hear and the crazy side effects that you hear about. What's the most common misunderstood thing you think about people starting to use steroids? If you could clarify one myth up for everyone.
That it's just one cycle. You can't just take one cycle. It's, number one, it's completely pointless, because if you do one cycle, then let's say you do a PCT after that, you do a post-cycle therapy to get your natural production back up, you're going to lose most of your gains. Why go through all of that, and by the end of it, you just look the exact same, just with maybe a little bit worse blood work? You wasted a bunch of time. It was horrible mentally for you as well. Like, don't just do one cycle. If you're going to pursue this path and commit to it. Stay on TRT, do multiple cycles if that's how you want to do it, or just stay on TRT in general. But it's never just going to be one cycle. And also, an even bigger misconception is TRT is not a cycle.
Yeah.
People think they're going to run one cycle of TRT. That's ridiculous. TRT is testosterone replacement therapy. That is a lifelong therapy of taking low levels of testosterone. If you have low levels, which you can only know if you get blood work done, then you take enough testosterone to put you at the upper range of the natural reference range. It's not going to help you build a ton of muscle. It'll help a little bit if you have low test, but it's not going to have the same effects as taking actual steroids, which puts your levels above the reference range, above the natural levels. So that's another misconception.
And I think a lot of times guys have a lot of ego involved, thinking with the argument, I have high testosterone naturally. I already have high test. And it's like, even if you do, you don't have testosterone like this, dude. Like once you take TRT or really any compound with it, it's just different. It really is. It improves life quality in so many ways outside of just being more jacked in the gym. For you to think you're experiencing that naturally, you sound arrogant.
Now, there are people who do have, like 1,500 nanograms per deciliter or 1,200 nanograms per deciliter.
What would 2,000 be like for them, though? I could imagine.
Yeah, I mean, for them, I think, yeah, it would be, it's
and also
improvement.
once you start taking other compounds, you have to have that test as a base. So regardless, if you're not just you're gonna start with test, but boy, oh boy, you're gonna have fun when you find Anavar.
Yeah, I mean, steroids are fun. There's no doubt about it. Drugs are fun in general. People love drugs. People get addicted to drugs for a reason.
Yes.
Not because they suck, but because drugs are fun, right? So my opinion is, if you want to pursue this path, understand that it's not a short-term, one cycle type of thing. It's, you're making a long-term, life-altering decision.
It should be a lifestyle for you at the point that you make that decision, because it's going to continue being a lifestyle, or you'll experience some crazy side effects.
If you want the cognitive benefits, like you want to feel more focused, more driven, and all these things, or you want to have better sex drive, or you want to feel more motivated, more driven, whatever it is, TRT isn't always the answer. If you already have 1,200 nanograms per deciliter or 1,000 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone, you're at that upper range of the natural reference range. Maybe it's not because of your testosterone levels that you feel like you need, more of this or more of that. Maybe it's your habits that are affecting your dopamine levels and your dopamine sensitivity. And that might be the reason why you feel like you need the effects of testosterone, where testosterone does increase dopamine. You'll get those effects, but you could also just simply have better habits by doing the easy stuff. Stop doing the bullshit, whether that's the fast food, the sugary foods, the scrolling for dopamine for hours, or the watching things you shouldn't be watching, or the easy, pleasurable things that take no effort. Get rid of those and start doing things that take a little bit of effort, that don't bring you, as much pleasure in the short term, such as keeping your place cleaner, like doing your dishes, or taking, like cleaning, like whatever it is. The simple things like that if you notice you're kind of slacking in, or maybe with productivity, if you feel like you should be doing something that you're not doing, there's a reason. And it's not that it's always a testosterone deficiency or that testosterone is the answer. It might be, but I think there's, the realistic habits that you can implement and get rid of as well, that will allow you to live the life you want to live without having to inject yourself with hormones.
Okay, cool. I got a scary question to wrap it up on, so we can have a little cliffhanger. I think the biggest side effect that anyone could ever fear with taking compounds is death, and that usually it comes from cardiac problems, right? What are some of the early onset things that bodybuilders could be paying attention to before dying from cardiac arrest that they're not?
Blood work. If you're not checking your blood work, but you're taking steroids, you're an idiot. Plain and simple. Why would you be messing with your hormones and messing with your health, but not monitoring your hormones and your health? That is what steroid abuse is. That's not steroid use, that's steroid abuse. You can use steroids without abusing them, and you can do things in a smart way, but still see great progress. So if you're scared to look at your blood work, if you don't know how to check your blood work, if you don't care to check it, or if you don't think you can afford it, all those are bullshit reasons. Blood work can be very cheap. It's very easy to order it. You go to algorx.com and use code CATS for a discount. If you want help ordering it, if you want help reading over it, reach out to me. You can reach out to your doctor if you want to, but they're not specialized in bodybuilding, specialized in general health for, regular people. So there's no excuse to not get blood work done if you're taking steroids. If you can't afford blood work, but you can afford the steroids, you can't afford the steroids. Blood work is a part of it. It's a prerequisite before you even take the steroids. So that is the best way for you to make sure that you're not shortening your lifespan for egotistical reasons of taking steroids to build a little bit more muscle or to have, the effects that you want from steroids. And there's easy ways to monitor your health, your heart, especially heart health. There's on blood work, you can check the most accurate marker for assessing your risk for cardiovascular disease. It's called ApoB or ApoB or apolipoprotein B. I could explain what this actually is, but I don't want to bore you with it. Basically, it's going to tell you how many LDL. All right, I'm already explaining it. Hold on, let me turn my phone off real quick. It's going to tell you how many LDL particles you have. If you just check your LDL, that's checking how much cholesterol you have in all of your different LDL particles, which is not as accurate because it doesn't take into consideration the size of the LDL particles. So if you check your ApoB, that's more accurate to see how many LDL particles you have, which is how many of those shuttling molecules, those lipoproteins you have that are bringing cholesterol to your arteries. That's what you want to measure. Then you also want to look at the basics of a lipid panel. Look at your HDL, your LDL, triglycerides, and cholesterol, total cholesterol. Then a few markers to check. One is your genetic marker for cardiovascular disease. This would be, I already mentioned ApoB, so that's apolipoprotein B. The genetic marker is lipoprotein A. So ApoB, LP little a. Those are two separate markers, but they sound the same. LP little a or lipoprotein A is the genetic marker that changes a little bit over time from diet, from body weight and body fat, from taking steroids, but is mostly affected by genetics. So that's a marker you can easily check, also on AlgoRx, code Katz. Then there's the less direct markers for checking cardiovascular risk. One that I didn't mention is a calcium score that you can easily get checked by your, if you go to your primary care doctor, if you go to your cardiologist. You could also, go to like your primary care or urgent care, get a EKG. There's, ways to check your heart health besides just blood work, echocardiogram, etc. So besides heart health specifically, there's other things that play into heart health, which are total body inflammation, insulin resistance, blood pressure, lots of things to monitor. But the issue that most people realize is they see that I'm saying there's so many things to check, so many things to know. Screw it, I'm just going to take steroids. My buddy took steroids and he's fine. You're not your buddy. Also, your buddy might die in 5 years from taking too many steroids. So that's not a good way to think. The better way to go about it is if you're going to mess with your health, invest in somebody who can guide you the right way. This is what I do for a living. I'm simply just saying that this is why I do what I do.
And let's take a second to highlight it, because you're someone who isn't a doctor, but you can clearly help people interpret and understand a bunch of different health markers across, hormones, digestion, heart health, understand how to test these things. What are some other things that makes working with you different than just a traditional coach? Because the fitness coaching industry gets so much flack on just the idea that people are chat GPT and all the answers they're giving you and just not paying attention to who you are as an individual. And that's what you help me do best, is interpret information and understand things when I ask questions. So how do you kind of do that with people, and what is like your specialty with that?
Yeah, so I think having experience is one thing, having education is another thing. A lot of people think that bodybuilding and blood work and health and all these things is just simple and straightforward, but it really isn't. you have to actually have a full understanding of how certain things in your blood work affect other markers, or that there's so many pieces to a puzzle. So, I did get the education background. I got my undergrad in exercise physiology and medical sciences, and sports nutrition minor.
Let's start with the black belt. Okay, let's just start with the black belt.
I don't think that necessarily played a role into...
He's been disciplined since a child. Okay, this guy's been a black belt since 10, 11, 12.
I was like nine or 10,
fucking
something
black
like that.
belt. And we're not joking. This is real. He was a black belt at 9 years old.
I did Taekwondo for I think it was 9.5 years, from
Multidisciplinary artist.
like 5 to 14. But that's how I guess the whole discipline into bodybuilding started. But with coaching,
I just want to point that out so you can know this guy's been serious since since day one of his life. He's never played around. He don't do no jokes. He's exactly who you see he is every day. This dude eats, sleeps, works out. That's about all he does, and pets his fucking dog. And works, of course.
Yeah. I also enjoy what I do. I don't live like a robot. Like a lot of people, think like, how do you live like that?
You're always expanding your knowledge. I mean, just recently you kind of took the gut health, approach and started becoming more, knowledgeable in that and working on that. And
right. That's what I, was like kind of saying, is also like, beyond just like just the college is like, I've done mentorships, I've done online courses, and like, it's hard to have a full understanding of concepts if you only learn from TikToks, from YouTube videos, from ChatGPT, from Reddit. If you are forced to learn a shit ton of a concept fed to you in the right way, you're going to learn, and also for a long period of time too, you're going to learn the tiny little intricacies that allow you to have that full capability of tailoring things to certain people versus just reciting information. Like, it's cool to be able to recite, like, this is what Tren does. This is, how Mastron works. This is,
But being able to form, whatever answer they're looking from in multiple different angles is what shows your understanding of a topic.
Perfect example is today, one of my clients sent me his blood work, and his LDL was elevated, but his HDL was very high. And so I'll tell you the numbers if I remember correctly. His LDL was, I believe, 121. His HDL was 78, and his ApoB was 101. So reference ranges: LDL you generally want under 100, under 130, is fine. His was 121. HDL you want at least over 40, if not above 60. His was 78. ApoB, you want under 90, if not under 100, is 101. So if you just looked at the superficial markers of like, well, your LDL is elevated, and he sent me like the rhythm lab work where it says if you're in the range, it's a green line. If you're out of the range to any degree, it's a red line, a red box. So yeah, your LDL is elevated, your ApoB is slightly elevated, but your HDL is very high. He's also got an A1C of, I think it was like 5.1. He's very lean. So understanding all of these, his CRP was like 0.1. What else? Like metabolic, he was great. Like liver enzymes were great, kidney function was great. So yeah, he had high LDL. His total cholesterol was a little bit elevated, but because his HDL was very high, his LDL was a little bit elevated, his ApoB was slightly elevated. I'm not concerned with that. He's, metabolically healthy. He does eat a lot of red meat. That's why he has higher LDL and higher cholesterol. But if you take somebody who just got the superficial knowledge of
being a doctor,
well,
would a doctor misinterpret those results and not understand maybe why and tell the patient a different?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't speak for all, but there are definitely doctors that will just think, well, LDL is the enemy. They're going to call it the bad cholesterol, even though it's not cholesterol.
That's what it is, the bad cholesterol. I'm familiar with that blanket term.
So everybody calls it the bad cholesterol and the good cholesterol. And I've been saying this for years. HDL is not cholesterol and LDL is not cholesterol. They're cholesterol transporters. And so it's crazy, that, I when I was in my college classes, I used to say this out loud, in front of the whole class. Is like, they would call LDL like bad cholesterol. And I'd say, it's not cholesterol. It's a cholesterol transporter. Cholesterol itself.
Sometimes it's easier to with those blanket terms, so they just give them that, and people never forget them.
I know, but I would think that's funny. So yeah, if they see like, well, your LDL is elevated, that means we got to put you on a statin. That's absolutely what a doctor might say. But yeah, when it comes to like hiring the coach that charges $50 a month, or only listening to your primary care physician that is also out of shape and thinks that taking TRT is going to cause blood clots and a stroke and make your heart health worse. Like, if your doctor's saying all those things, if you're if you're in that boat, I would highly recommend going with somebody who actually is going to be worth an investment. That could be me. That could be somebody else that you relate with. I'm not going to say that like I'm the best coach for every single person, but I do, know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Highlight some of the things that kind of set you apart and how you can help people in a different approach than what a traditional coach would do. Like, what are some of your strengths? What are some of your unique qualities as coach? So like a built-in doctor, guys, is what I'm telling you, for all intensive purposes.
Well, I mean, there's, not trying to toot my own horn too much, but, just factually, what I do, is with, for example, when somebody wants to come to me and say they want to take a steroid cycle, or they want to take, anything like that, I'm not just going for the short-term benefit of like, yeah, we're going to make some great progress if we just hop on a bunch of Tren and, like highest possible dosages. First thing we're doing is we're checking blood work. Like, there's no other option. We're going to look at your blood work first. Even if, let's say, you want to just start TRT. Okay, what's your natural production at? Like, do you have high or low testosterone? If you have low testosterone and we start at a high dosage of TRT, you're going to see side effects. And if you have a high natural level of testosterone and you take a lower level of TRT, you're not going to see any benefits from taking TRT. Just only, shutting yourself down for no reason. So I always check blood work first, no matter what. Within the coaching itself, my coaching style is with check-ins. I have my own app. I have everything go through there with, the diet, the training, the check-ins are through my app. And the way that I respond to check-ins is through a Loom video. So it's not,
And I've seen the videos you make for your clients too, where you're helping them perfect their form and giving them feedback on their training too.
It's another thing. Super neat. Training is a huge underrated factor when it comes to improving your physique. Whether you're trying to lose muscle, whether you're trying to lose body fat or build muscle, or improve your health. If you can take your training from where it's currently at and improve it to whatever capacity, you're going to only see benefits from that, even if you're just trying to lose weight. So that's one thing that I have everybody do is they send me 1 to 3 videos of their hardest sets every week with their check-ins, and I completely analyze everything from what we can do better in that set and things that you might not even be realizing that you could improve on. Or no, let me rephrase that. Things that you aren't even realizing that you're doing well, that I want you to keep doing well. So I go fully in depth into the training clips that you send me through a Loom video, where it's very much more personable. A lot of coaches will only reply through email, once a week, once every other week. I'm not going to see the best results from my clients if I'm not giving them my full effort. So that's what I found.
I've seen too. You have so many videos of just the feedback you're giving clients in videos. I've seen them. You have a file as big as the Bible on them. It's crazy.
So I mean, yeah, that's really what I try to do is get the best results as possible, and that comes from prioritizing health first, making sure that we're healthy before we take anything. If we do take, I work with a lot of guys who are natural, who simply want to improve their physique without taking anything.
Let's highlight that one guy you showed me who had the craziest legs and arms ever.
Natural.
Yeah. Was he a cop or something?
He's a detective and a SWAT agent.
Yeah, dude's fucking jacked.
ridiculous. I know, and natural. So like that's the thing is like you can build a crazy physique if you train naturally for a long enough period of time, but also getting to a point where like this guy was training for 10 years and then realized, you know what, I want to take my physique to the next level, but I don't know how to get there. I've been, stuck at the same,
You've seen pictures
size.
of him too. How long was he at that physique that you showed me pictures? It was like the last 2-3 years.
Yeah,
4
probably
years?
around that time.
Yeah.
And so,
Been stagnant for a while.
he has like very like well-developed like limbs, like arms and legs, but like torso-wise, like that comes not from training harder. That doesn't come from just trying to keep thinking of new things. That simply has to come from something outside of you. And so that is why it makes sense to hire a professional to help take you from where you're limiting yourself and be able to take yourself further than you've ever been. And so that's what I did with that one client is he's been trying to grow his back and chest and he just hasn't known how to do it. He sent me his training videos and I was like, this is why your biceps are fucking huge.
You can tell right away, huh? Yeah.
So he's
pulling, huh?
At first he's sending me his row videos where we're seeing a bunch of elbow flexion. And so we're seeing this. And I'm like, well, yeah, no shit. Or you're doing a pull down and you're doing this and you're not getting very much lat activation here, but you're getting a whole bunch of elbow flexion if you're doing, this kind of row. So I modified the shit out of his training. I put like so many modifications into his training program almost every single week to where like I had him use certain types of handles. I had him buy certain types of grips, like just so that he's not using his biceps. Like we took arm training out of his program. It was fucking huge. And so he's literally only pulling with his elbow and his back is growing, no doubt. And so now he's learning how to train more optimally for his physique, not what's optimal on paper, what's optimal for studies, what's optimal for so-and-so. It's person dependent. And so that's, another thing is like, if you're trying to train optimally, it's not going to happen from reading a study, watching a TikTok video. It's going to happen from seeing what's optimal for you. And that's
getting out there and testing that feedback loop that you're seeing.
And that's what I try to do for everybody that I work with is I absolutely tell one person one thing and tell another person the exact opposite because that's going to get each of them the best result. Whether that has to do with training, with diet, whatever it is. If I tell somebody, if you're going out to a restaurant, I only want you eating grilled chicken and vegetables, I might tell the other person, I need you to have a burger and fries and a diet soda.
Completely different goals too, which is,
And they're both going to see better progress. Or with training, I might tell somebody they need to start, pushing, or let's say to shorten the range of motion on something. And I might tell somebody else to lengthen their range of motion. And so it is very person dependent. And that's, that reminds me of something. I was going to say that it's not cookie cutter. And that is actually a big issue in the bodybuilding space, fitness space, is I have seen some pretty bad examples of coaches giving cookie cutter plans to their clients where I feel like I should
go in on it. Let's hear it.
Out this
name drop, kill him. Fuck this guy.
Honestly, yeah. So I'll say this. I'm gonna put this on YouTube. I'm gonna say
also
it.
Instagram and all of the platforms.
If he sees this, then I'm honestly happy about it because he deserves this reputation. So this was my old gym owner, the gym that I used to go to in Tucson. His name is Rafe Tyke. Also his dog is.
And don't get near his dog. His dog's fucking crazy.
Try to kill my dog. But anyways,
his wife has a little wiener.
I didn't say that. Well, that's what I was
going
going to
take.
take.
Dude, looks like a baby dick.
If you take much steroids, is what happens. Anyways, he was coaching my girlfriend, Chelsea, for a few months, helped her put on some good size. He absolutely knows how to build muscle. No issues knowing how to do that. However, he's not a good coach when it comes to contest prep. And the reason why is because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He just copies other people and uses cookie cutter programs. And so I'll tell you exactly what happened was he helped her put on some good size, helped her with, her training, her eating. Great. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I think it was like 19 weeks out or something from her first ever bikini competition, like 3-4 days in advance, he was like, hey, by the way, Saturday we're starting prep. Just out of the blue. Like no mental preparation, no pre-prep phase, nothing. Just
cold water on her right away.
Out of the blue. Like, by the way, this weekend we're starting prep. I think it was like 19 weeks out or something. And she had never competed before. Yeah. And so I was like, I mean, that sucks that he didn't give you any warning. It didn't say, yeah, we're starting prep in 4 weeks or whatever. So then he sends her updated diet for prep. Prior to that, she had been eating 4 meals a day. He knew for a fact that she did not digest protein powder well. So
you're going to eat a bunch of protein powder now.
Yes. So he at first didn't have any protein powder in her diet, 4 meals a day. And she was doing well.
Responding good.
And then he said, okay, we're starting prep. Here's the new diet. Let's go from 4 meals a day to 6 meals a day, completely different foods. 3 of those meals are protein shakes, completely different everything. Why would that make any sense?
New variables for no reason.
And there's a reason why he did that, because that's the actual cookie cutter plan that he gives to every single person
when they start their contest
prep.
Oh wow!
Regardless of the competitor or the division, whatever.
I mean, it's common when people are lazy. That's the first thing they're going to do.
Cookie cutter, absolutely, yeah.
It sounds good on paper to think you're eating 4 meals a day plus 3 protein shakes, but that's all it does is sound good on paper. It's
but
not
imagine
good.
You have a great relationship with your coach, and he knows like you don't digest protein powder well. And then he's like, all right, we're starting prep. Here's 3 protein shakes a day.
Yeah, have fun being bloated and shitting your brains out.
And so I saw that. I was like, what the fuck?
How long did she follow the program before?
She didn't follow it.
She didn't even start. She knew right
so she showed me and she's like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, let's do the common sense thing. Take what you've been eating, decrease the amount of food.
Yeah.
Common sense. You've eaten 4 meals a day of this amount of food. Let's take the same exact foods, same exact meals and everything, and just a little bit less carbs, a little bit less fats. You're going to make some progress. Maybe add in a little bit of cardio if we need to. And she started seeing progress. And so then, 1 week goes by, 2 weeks go by, and then I'm like, well, you can't just keep following the diet that I made you. Like, it has to progress over time. So I told her, I was like, well, I mean, I guess, like, send me a check-in so I see, like, what your progress looks like, and then I can tell you when we're going to make changes over time to your diet, to your cardio, whatever it is. And so she started sending me check-ins. Fast forward, we both get separate emails, different emails that say different things that bans us both from the gym. What? He banned me because he doesn't allow people to poach his clients. Keep in mind,
that's your girlfriend.
It's my girlfriend, but also I didn't want to coach her. I told her like this was my last semester in college. I didn't want to have to coach her and like focus on that. Like I told her I'm not going to coach you. But it ended up being like he was such a bad coach that I had to step in and help. I had no choice.
It wasn't like you were begging her for this opportunity. You were just fixing what you seen was wrong.
I told her, no, I'm not going to coach you. And it ended up having to be that way. So I got banned because he said, I don't allow other people to coach I don't allow other coaches to poach my clients. I did the opposite. And then he emailed her saying something about I don't allow my clients to
get poached by people,
work with other coaches, or to lie or whatever it was. I don't know. So he banned us both from his gym. It was like an insider secret. Every single person who starts prep gets the exact same prep diet.
I mean, I'm not surprised. It didn't sound like he was putting much thought into it. He was someone who clearly thought, gear was playing the larger role in the...
That's all he knows how to do is he just knows how to push gear, and that's going to get some results. So that was the story of a coach who uses cookie cutter plans and ended up backfiring. And when you're authentic and you actually know what you're doing and care at least a little bit, like
I mean, you've flown out for people's shows. You've had clients for many years on end. Yeah. You're definitely someone who takes it super serious. So I think there's 2 different aspects of one guy who just thinks it's all coming from steroids, and another person who understands how the well-rounded aspect that gives you the best approach. But I definitely think we've had a good talk here. If there's any things you want to wrap it up with, maybe plug in any of your codes you got going on, or just any final thoughts.
Well, this is the first podcast of many.
What are you gonna call it?
I don't really know yet. I was thinking maybe like Katz Coaching Podcast.
Sounds fucking
simple.
Sick.
Katz Coaching. KCP.
Katz
I'll
Deli.
get like a little like circle thing on the back that says KCP, or maybe like my Katz coaching logo or something.
Good little poster behind you or something.
Yeah,
A
I could
little
definitely do
LED sign.
So right now, I'm in a Airbnb right now. I got this 2-month Airbnb lease while I'm figuring out where I want to live. And then once I move into another house, then I'll have like an actual room as like a podcast studio, and that'll be like actually where everything's like set up like a lot more nice looking. And then yeah, I definitely plan on doing a lot more podcasts, in person and remote. Lots of ideas here.
Do you have any recommendations or questions you have? I'd love to see Adam go into anything you guys have. Try to throw some curveballs at him, because you're not going to get him. This dude knows everything.
This was the tip of the iceberg. We got like,
I wrote down like 1,000 questions. We answered like 5.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of funny. But I'll put all the discount codes that I have, affiliate links, everything in the description. Code Katz for everything, basically.
Eat your 10 fish.
Yeah, Safe Catch. Actually, I don't have a code with Safe Catch. They just send me free shit.
Okay.
Yeah, for posting.
Yeah,
but
still eat the fish. It's good fish. I like their fish.
Safe Catch is a good one, yeah. And comment below if you have any comments about, suggestions, what I should do with the podcast, any questions you want me to answer on the next podcast. And if you've stuck around this whole time, then appreciate you watching.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Cat's out.
That was gay. Holy shit.
Adam, how do you feel?
Man, that was a long fucking podcast.
That was good, though.